this is the way the husband trying to express love to them. So they stay on and they feel love. I know it's a little bit disgusted, but in certain degree, it feels like, yeah, you know, your parents used to beat you and they tell you, why do daddy or mommy beat you? It's because mommy, daddy love you. So that is how they're being educated since they were young. Okay, never mind. You cannot comprehend this kind of feeling.
This is not, sorry, no, this is beyond the bedroom kind of abuse kind of thing, is it?
I don't know what kind of abuse you're talking about.
Sorry, listeners out there, I'm not saying that, I'm not trying to say that abuse is incorrect. Yes, I really think that if there's going to be abuse, don't take it. It cannot be that. You have to, don't even take it as a sign of love, because you all deserve and you all don't need this kind of unnecessary things.
Yes.
You all are great at this.
Yeah.
You know? Okay, sorry.
Of course, we don't encourage this program doesn't encourage you to get a divorce, but if it is something that is unrepairable to a certain extent of unrepairable relationship, I think it is good to let it go. It's much more healthy to move on.
Yeah.
I find that. Right. If let's say for me, I own multiple of assets. If I own multiple of assets together with my spouse, how does the court decide whether who shall get which part of the asset? How does the court decide who gets what?
Okay, when you talk about owning multiple assets with your spouse, is this in a capacity as husband and wife? Because there are some situations where the wife or the husband works in a company.
In the same company.
Correct.
Okay.
So that's quite a little bit different. Then you have to go on the basis that although I am an employee, but I have given more stuff, more sacrifice because I'm the spouse. So let's assume that this is on the basis that husband and wife are not employees of each other. They are there in terms of their assets. Again, it really comes down to court. I cannot stress enough that the court would really look at every single facet of things.
Yeah.
So, especially when you have children, and that ultimately is the top part thing. And I agree, because if you have children, they are innocent. They never asked to be born, but they are there. So you have to give them that priority, that paramount consideration.
Okay. And talking about children, right? Is having to see the children being separated from one of the parents is really devastating. You know, they always used to think that the family, and usually some couple, they actually do some drama in front of the children. They always pretend that they are lovey-dovey, and then after that, behind their back, they're actually quarreling every single time. And you know, all these children, like what you say, they are very naive. They doesn't know that what is going on all this while. And suddenly, when you break that news to them that, you know, daddy and mommy is gonna get a divorce, and this is really devastating because you are not prepared. It's unprecedented for them. So how does the judge decide which parents the children should follow?
Okay, so good question. Let's go on the basis that the children are 7 years and below. So when the child or children are 7 years and below, the presumption, I use the word presumption because it's just there, but you can always rebut it. Presumption is that it goes to the mother. However, you can the husband can always say that, hey, yes, the presumption is that it goes to the mother, but the mother is an alcoholic, drug addict, brings men into the house and cause the children to be in a very inhabitable kind of situation. Therefore, husband gets custody. But for the most part, from what I see, that the clients that I have, they're all very reasonable. So usually it's going to be on the basis that joint custody, control, care, everyone benefits from that.
Okay, so when you talk about joint custody, what does joint custody means? Can't be like, the children having two
So
parents at the same time.
it would be that
Mm.
both parties, I'm going to lump everything together. Joint custody control plan means that both parties decide on religion, education, what's going to happen to the child or children in the near future.
I see. Right. I'm going to ask you something even more.
Can
This leads to another question
Maintenance of
in
the
my
child.
mind. Not just maintenance of the child. Like, for example, you say both of them would decide on the school and on the religions and whatnot. But then, even if a perfect couple who are living together may not be able to have a line to this kind of decision, they may not come into alignment. What about it already separated? What if one of the parents decided to make individual decision? I'm going to decide my children's going to be Muslim because I'm going to marry a Muslim. Can it be done in such a way? What kind of action can the father do against the mother?
Okay. Then we're looking at a scenario that you have to go to court, you apply to court, say that there's a breach of the court order, and then you ask the judge to give necessary orders.
I see.
Which is so drastic. It's like it's like an ant. You want to kill an ant, you're using a sledgehammer, which really can be resolved by communication. Which Vicky comes back to what you said earlier. I agree, communication, but no, it's.
But this is something that happens every single time, every single time. Otherwise, where do you get so much of court cases?
I agree. So that's why listeners out there should listen to what Vicky is saying. That communication, ultimately, all of these things, it's just severe escalation of things. Because ultimately, if you can just resolve it in terms of the communication, nothing is going to happen after that.
Right. So the conclusion is, whatever I just asked, the conclusion is, do not stir a hurricane in a cup.
Yes.
That's the conclusion. Right. So if you got a court order on joint petition, don't pandai sendiri. Right. If what is considered a win-win situation in a divorce? Okay. I know when someone is going to get divorced, it's not going to be a happy ending. But I do heard that one couple, it's a friend of mine, and I was asking her, why do you get a divorce? I was so keipochi back then. Why do you get a divorce? And how does it feel like getting a divorce? I wasn't even married back then. So she said, everybody walked to the JPN. They were so angry at each other, but both of them, they were like friends since childhood or something like that. They were happily chit-chatting, and then everyone around them were just looking at them. They're laughing at each other. They're already getting a divorce, but they are still happy. But is there a couple like that you have in your experience?
I will give you both sides are very happy. Things are very rare, but I've seen two. To give positivity to all of this, there was one couple that I know after they got divorced, but before it was made absolute, they actually got back together. So there is some positivity in all of this.
Wow, that is nice. That means, when you got divorced and then you got back together, that must be the one. It must be the one already.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
But what is rather than going through all this kind of fights
I agree. But correct.
So rather than going through all these fights, is there a win-win situation whereby both husband and wife already decide, okay, we want you to do the divorce for us, but we have decided no, we parted this way, or is there a win-win situation that you can craft for them, or you can advise them to have a win-win situation? What are the win-win situation divorce solution?
Usually what I would do is that I would tell them both that, okay, you tell me what, talk to each other first. So I'm not going to get involved. You sit down somewhere, have coffee or whatever, talk about it, write everything down, because usually a lot of people are thinking, oh yeah, I know, but then when I ask them that, I didn't think about it. So, hence, it's always important, write it down, both sides, and once you agree, then let the lawyer know. Then easy to be drafted. Most of the time, there will always be one or two stumbling blocks, but it's not a huge stumbling block. So it's always